My parents skipped my wedding because I married before my seemingly perfect sister. Now, their idealized family image is finally falling apart. After being together for 4 years, I 32F got married 8 months ago. Everyone except my sister Molin 30F, and my parents attended the wedding. My parents' decision to miss the event was surprising, but I wasn't too shocked by my sister's absence because we've never had the best relationship. In hindsight, given our history, I should have expected it. Let me give you some background on our family dynamics. I can't entirely blame my parents for always favoring my sister over me. She's been exceptional at almost everything throughout her life. She commanded attention whenever she entered a room. From a young age, she excelled in every spelling bee, science fair and talent show. In high school, she was class president, valedictorian and prom queen. Tall, slender and attractive. She even pursued modeling while attending college before focusing on her business degree. Her first modeling job came in her sophomore year, and I'll never forget the lavish party my parents threw to celebrate. They invited all of our family and her friends, and her first professional headshot was framed and hung in the living room above the fireplace. That same year, I graduated with a degree in computer science. My parents gave me a brief well done, and quickly turned their attention back to Molin's next photo shoot. After she graduated, she landed a job at a prestigious company, quickly climbing the corporate ladder. At the age of 30, she's already a senior executive with a corner office and company car. Meanwhile, I work as a mid-level software developer at a reputable tech company. I'm happy with my job, but it's not the kind of position that parents boast about at family gatherings. I'm also shorter and bigger than my sister, and my mother would often make comments about my appearance. She signed me up for workout classes I didn't want to take and constantly put me on diets. Growing up, she'd say things like, "Molin never struggles with her weight," or "You could look just like your sister if you put in a little more effort." Although I learned to ignore these comments in high school, they still had an impact. Over the years, I accepted these differences. Eventually I realized that my parents never took as much pride in my accomplishments as they did in Molin's. What was I supposed to do? I tried to earn their approval for years by attending the classes they recommended, joining the clubs they suggested, and even trying modeling for a brief period, a failure that my sister never lets me forget. But nothing was ever good enough. I was simply the second daughter, and they were enamored with my sister's achievements. I stopped trying to impress them sometime in my mid-20s. I focused on building my own life, growing professionally on my own terms, and forming relationships with people who valued me for who I am. Honestly, things have been better since then. I realized that my parents were always obsessed with appearances, so I kept our interactions superficial to avoid conflict. During obligatory family meals and holidays, I'd nod and smile, while they went on and on about Molin's latest job, relationship, or vacation spot. Since they had Molin to fawn over, they never noticed my emotional distance. Then, at a computer conference, I met my husband through a mutual friend. He actually saw me unlike my family. He appreciated my dry humor, my coding skills, and yes, even my body type. From the start, he never tried to change me or compare me to anyone else. After 4 years of dating, he proposed while we were at home, enjoying takeout and watching our favorite TV show. It was perfect. Naturally, I told my parents about the engagement last year. The first clue that something was off should have been their response. No congratulations, just silence. My mother then asked if I was sure I wanted to rush into it, and suggested I might want to improve my physical health before the wedding. My father barely said anything at all. At the engagement party, my husband noticed their strange behavior, which I didn't fully understand at the time. They spent most of the evening hunched over my mother's phone in a corner. My husband overheard them talking to Molin, who was crying. They were saying that this wasn't the plan, and that they never expected Rebecca to get married first. From what he overheard, there were some small issues with the wedding planning. Even though I wasn't engaged at the time, my mother had already created several wedding Pinterest boards for Molin, and didn't show much interest in helping me pick a dress or venue. When I chose my wedding dress, a simple yet beautiful A-line gown that made me feel confident, my mother remarked that it was practical and flattering for my figure. My future mother-in-law, who treated me like the daughter she never had, helped me with much of the planning. My husband and I carefully reviewed the guest list to ensure no one was left out before sending both electronic and physical wedding invitations. I'm certain my parents received theirs, as the electronic invitations had red receipts. I called, texted, and emailed them several times, but after realizing they hadn't responded, my emails were either ignored or answered with vague excuses about their busy schedules. I couldn't waste too much time worrying about it, as I was focused on preparing for the wedding. My in-laws were incredibly helpful, offering assistance with everything from seating arrangements to floral decorations. Even during the lovely bridal shower hosted by my husband's sister, no one mentioned the absence of my family. Despite my parents not being there, the wedding day itself was beautiful. We had a relaxed afternoon celebration following a morning ceremony in a garden. Everyone commented on how happy and in love we looked, but there were moments when their absence was deeply felt, like when I saw the empty front row seats, or during the father-daughter dance, which I wasn't able to have. I sought answers after the honeymoon and wedding. My parents claimed they were deeply hurt, that they hadn't received a formal invitation. When I finally reached them on the phone, my mother launched into a lengthy rant about how careless I had been, how she'd always wanted to help organize her daughter's wedding, and how she couldn't understand why I would exclude them from such an important occasion. I was confused, as I was certain we had sent them both digital and physical invitations. During the call, I double-checked and confirmed that we had indeed sent them the invitations. Even the delivery of the physical ones had been confirmed. I didn't confront them about their attempts to manipulate the situation. Instead, I apologized for what they claimed was an error and ended the call. Later, my husband pointed out several instances that revealed their true intentions, such as their surprising reaction when we told them we were engaged, and how they consistently came up with excuses not to help with wedding planning, saying they didn't want to add to my stress. He hadn't shared these observations earlier, but looking back, the pattern was clear. The idea that I, the less accomplished daughter, would marry before their beloved Molin was simply too much for them. Their reactions only confirmed what I had always suspected, but had resisted that I would never measure up to my sister in their eyes. The saddest part was realizing that even my wedding day, which should have been a joyous occasion celebrating love and new beginnings, became just another chapter in their ongoing effort to maintain their perfect family image with Molin at the center. Molin recently got engaged to someone she's been dating for a year. According to family members I've spoken to in family group chats, which I don't take part in, my parents have been openly discussing their excitement about organizing a grand wedding for her. They're already boasting about securing luxury venues and high-end gowns, with my mother taking Molin to private fittings at upscale stores. All the things I was never offered. What's surprising is that many family members are now refusing to attend Molin's wedding and engagement party. Apparently, my parents' actions at my wedding became a topic of conversation. When family members ask why my parents weren't at my wedding, I simply tell them what I believe to be the truth, that they couldn't bear the thought of me marrying before their cherished daughter. I share the facts as I see them, without embellishment or trying to gain sympathy. A few days ago, my parents contacted me, accusing me of trying to ruin Molin's wedding. According to their version of events, the relatives they've spoken to are giving excuses to avoid attending any of Molin's wedding-related events. My cousin, who Molin confided in, told her that people are hesitant to attend because they've heard about how my parents treated me. My parents claim that I'm spreading false stories out of jealousy over Molin's upcoming extravagant wedding. The truth, however, is that I'm simply telling people what really happened. Maybe they should reflect on their actions instead of blaming me for the consequences. If their behavior makes them look bad, they should take responsibility for it. As things continue to unfold, I'm finding it increasingly difficult to maintain a relationship with my parents. Their actions during my wedding made it clear to me that, no matter what I do, I will never be enough for them. Their absence at my wedding is no longer the most difficult part. The hardest thing to accept is realizing I never had the kind, supportive parents I always wished for. Right now, I'm focused on building a life with someone who truly values me for who I am. However, if anything important changes, I'll keep you updated. First update since my last post, which was 2 weeks ago, a lot has happened. I finally decided to address my parents' actions at my wedding, and their current claims that I ruined my sister's special day. After reading your encouraging comments, I felt it was time to confront everything directly. When my parents began texting me about their hurt feelings over the family situation, they quickly started accusing me during our phone call, saying that I was jealous of Molin and had intentionally planned things to hurt her. For the first time, I did something I had never done before. I agreed with them, but not in the way they expected. Instead of defending myself, as I usually would, I said, "You're right, I'm jealous. Not of Molin's career, her achievements, or her looks. I'm jealous of the love and support you've always shown her, which you never once offered me." There was a pause. My mother then claimed that I was exaggerating, saying they had always treated us equally. In that moment, something inside of me broke. Feelings I had kept bottled up for years flooded out. I reminded them of every birthday when Molin's success overshadowed mine. How my mother canceled my high school graduation dinner because Molin had a modeling callback, and how Molin's prom dress cost more than my entire college textbook bill. I continued, despite my father's attempts to interrupt and accuse me of exaggerating. I told them how it felt to watch them spend years planning Molin's imagined wedding while showing no interest in my own. I explained how painful it was to see their seats empty on my wedding day, and how my mother-in-law had to help with everything, from the wedding planning to finding a dress. Their response was telling. Instead of accepting any of my points, they flipped it on me. "Why didn't you speak up before, if you felt this way?" As if I hadn't tried to talk to them for years. My mother insisted I was being unreasonable, and my father added that by talking to family members about my feelings, I was being petty and vindictive. Then my mother said something that clarified everything. "We never imagined you'd go to such lengths as to ruin Molin's wedding out of spite, but we always knew you were insecure about her success." She also said, "This is not how we raised you." That's when I realized they couldn't even hear me. They were focused only on how Molin would react, not on the harm they had caused me. They cared more about her upcoming wedding than about how I had felt. Even during this discussion about their absence from my wedding, I didn't try to make things right. For the first time, I didn't apologize or back down. Instead I said, "You're right about one thing. You raised me to believe I would never measure up. You taught me that Molin's achievements were always more important than mine, and that upholding your ideal family image was more important than my feelings. But you also taught me that I deserve more than this, which I'm sure wasn't your intention." There was a long pause before my father spoke in a calm, controlled voice. "Maybe it's time to stop acting like we're bad parents, since you've already decided that we are, and it's clear you take pleasure in seeing us suffer. We assumed you, as family, would help fix this issue, but it's clear you've made your own decisions." The final blow came from my mother. "Maybe you just couldn't handle not being the center of attention. Even though we always tried to treat you both equally, Rebecca. That's not our fault. You chose to play the victim." I didn't argue. What was the point? Everything I had said had just been confirmed by them. They couldn't take responsibility for anything. I simply ended the call and said goodbye. To my surprise, I felt relief afterward. Yes, I cried, but it wasn't the same frantic, heartbreaking tears from my younger years. These were freeing tears. For the first time, I had said everything I needed to say without holding back or feeling guilty for how I felt. Later, my husband found me watching the sunset on our back porch. He sat next to me, took my hand, and didn't say anything. After a while, I asked him, "They're never going to change, are they?" "No," he said, squeezing my hand. "But you have, and that's what matters." He's right. I've changed. The girl who spent her life trying to earn her parents' approval is gone. I no longer need validation from them. It's painful to accept that they will never be the parents I wanted, but it's less painful than continuing to hope they might change. For the first time, I don't care what happens with Molin's wedding or the family drama. I've had my say, and now they have to deal with the consequences. Second update. 3 days have passed since my conversation with my parents, and things have taken an unexpected turn. Molin decided to get involved in the drama, but her approach backfired badly. She sent me a message yesterday morning that seemed composed at first, but it quickly became clear that she was taking a condescending tone. "What you said to your parents was completely inappropriate. They've been there for us throughout our lives, giving us everything. You can't just blame them for being poor parents because you're insecure about your life choices. She continued with her usual blend of moral superiority and passive-aggressive comments. I understand your wedding didn't go exactly as you hoped, but that doesn't mean you should try to ruin mine. There's nothing wrong with wanting a celebration that recognizes the people who have worked hard to meet certain standards, Rebecca. Not everything has to be a competition. I didn't bother to respond. I've realized that engaging with her only gives her more ammunition. After years of enduring her manipulative behavior, I simply blocked her number. However, Mullen has never been one to tolerate being ignored, so I assumed that wouldn't be the end of it. A few hours later, my husband called me at work, laughing so hard he could barely speak. Apparently, since Mullen couldn't reach me directly, she managed to get his personal number, probably through a mutual acquaintance, and sent him a long series of texts explaining, in great detail, why our sisterly relationship had always been strained. Her first message started off formally enough. As Rebecca's sister, and someone who deeply cares about our family's well-being, I feel compelled to reach out, but it quickly devolved into her true intentions. She told my husband that, as the new man in my life, he had a responsibility to help me behave in a more appropriate manner. The messages became increasingly condescending. Family dynamics can be complicated, she wrote to my husband, who, by the way, is a professional software architect with an MBA, adding, someone with Rebecca's emotional sensitivity might not fully grasp the bigger picture. She urged him to help her see reason before she does irreparable damage to important family relationships. But the most revealing part was her attempt to appeal to what she assumed were his social climbing ambitions. She actually wrote, surely you understand that maintaining good relationships with successful family members like myself could be beneficial for your future. Rebecca's behavior is only hurting her own prospects, and by extension yours. My husband, who has always seen right through Mullen's facade, found her manipulation attempt absolutely hilarious. He especially enjoyed how she seemed to believe that her career status or potential networking opportunities would impress him. As he put it, she really doesn't know me at all, does she? That evening, we went through the messages together, and instead of feeling angry or hurt, I found myself laughing alongside my husband. Watching Mullen's tactics backfire so spectacularly, especially on someone entirely immune to them, was oddly freeing. This whole incident taught me something important about my sister. Deep down, she's still the same insecure teenager who needs to put others down to feel superior. Despite all her achievements and success, she clearly struggles with healthy relationships. She genuinely believed she could manipulate me through my husband, and when the direct approach failed, she immediately resorted to trying to turn my husband against me, just like she used to do in high school, when she couldn't control me directly, attempting instead to turn my friends against me. Different decade, same tactics. Looking at it now with fresh perspective, I can see that Mullen's behavior goes beyond typical sibling rivalry. For as long as I can remember, she actively worked to maintain her position as the golden child, constantly reminding both our parents and me how much better she was. She had to overshadow any accomplishment of mine. She had to highlight my flaws to every new friend I made. But my response to her games is different now. 10 years ago, her words would have sent me spiraling into self-doubt. 5 years ago, they would have left me hurt and frustrated. Today, honestly, I'm just tired of the drama, and I find her transparent manipulation attempts amusing. My husband's response was perfect. Instead of getting dragged into the drama, he simply replied, "Thank you for your concern about Rebecca's well-being. As her husband, my priority is supporting her happiness, not managing her behavior. I believe it's best if you direct any future concerns to Rebecca directly. Have a great day." Mullen, unsurprisingly, didn't take that well. After realizing she wasn't getting the reaction she wanted, she fired off one last message. "I see she's poisoned you against the family too. Don't say I didn't try to help when this all blows up in your faces." Ironically, her attempt to help has only made me more determined to maintain my distance from my family's toxic dynamics. Her messages to my husband confirmed what I already knew. Nothing has changed. She's still the same calculating person who feels the need to control the narrative and sees any deviation from her perfect family image as a direct threat. The best part? Knowing that her manipulation didn't work. Instead of driving a wedge between my husband and me, she only succeeded in bringing us even closer together. Totally unconcerned by her fears of social repercussions, my husband and I simply laughed at her messages and started planning a weekend getaway. That evening, as we sat together, I realized something profound. True family isn't about keeping up appearances or controlling the narrative. It's about standing together, sharing laughter, and supporting each other when someone, yes, even your own sister, tries to manipulate you. I'm now more certain than ever that I'm better off keeping a safe distance from Mullen, the wedding drama, and my family's never-ending power struggles. My husband and I have made a conscious decision to focus on building our own happiness. They say success is the best revenge, but I've come to realize that real success isn't about impressing others. It's about embracing your choices and surrounding yourself with people who uplift you, rather than hold you back. And by that definition, I feel more successful than ever. After my sister's failed attempt to manipulate my husband 2 weeks ago, things have taken an unexpected turn. My parents, desperate to salvage their reputation, have only made matters worse. Through family connections, I found out that they've been frantically trying to correct the narrative. They've been calling relatives individually, accusing me of spreading horrible lies because I'm supposedly jealous of Mullen's perfect wedding. Their latest claim? That I'm resentful because her wedding will be much grander and more elegant than mine was. According to their story, I intentionally left them out of my wedding so I could play the victim. The funniest part? They're telling people I sent their invitation to an old email address and an old physical address, despite the fact that they've lived in the same house for 30 years and have had the same email since email was invented. The good news? Their damage control efforts are failing spectacularly. No one is buying their version of events. In fact, several relatives have come forward with their own experiences of my parents' favoritism. One of my aunts even revealed that my mother pulled similar stunts at other family weddings, always making sure Mullen was the center of attention. But the most satisfying part? Watching my extended family finally see my parents for who they really are. Some key family members, ones who were expected to play major roles in Mullen's wedding, are now pulling their support. The exclusive venue they secured through family connections, that might not be available anymore. Even a family friend's luxury dress boutique has suddenly run into scheduling conflicts. And then came the breaking point. At a family gathering last weekend, someone casually asked to see my wedding photos. My mother, clearly bitter, snapped. She launched into a defensive rant about how I had changed after getting married and was trying to tear the family apart. Her meltdown backfired badly. Several relatives, who hadn't been fully aware of the situation, were left stunned. Instead of protecting their perfect family image, my parents have been the ones destroying it. Every time they try to justify why they weren't at my wedding, they end up revealing more about their own toxic behavior. The more they attempt to paint me as the villain, the more people start to see the truth. Even family members who once stayed neutral are now choosing sides. Recently, my father's brother, who had always remained silent to keep the peace, actually apologized to me. He admitted that he should have spoken up sooner about how unfairly I was treated. As a result, he and his family have decided not to attend any of Mullen's wedding festivities. The best part? I don't even have to do anything. I've stayed completely silent. The truth is handling everything for me. Mullen and my parents keep exposing themselves with every lie they tell. Looking back, I realize that all those years of keeping the peace, staying quiet, enduring their behavior, only allowed them to keep treating me this way. My husband put it best. They spent years building the illusion of a perfect family, but it was all built on emotional manipulation and favoritism. Eventually, it was bound to collapse. Personally, I'm thriving. For the first time in my life, I'm no longer chasing my parents' approval. I don't have to tiptoe around Mullen's ego. I don't feel the pressure of maintaining their perfect family image. And honestly, that freedom is more rewarding than any form of revenge. Sometimes, The best way to win is to simply let the truth reveal itself. I want to take a moment to thank everyone here. Your advice, support and encouragement have meant more to me than you could ever know. Sometimes, you don't see what real family support looks like until you find it from total strangers online. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to hit that button and turn on notifications for more real-life stories like this. You won't want to miss what happens next.